Our story begins with HMS Queen Elizabeth, a leading ship of her class built for the Royal Navy in the early 1910s. This powerful dreadnought battleship, often serving as a flagship, played significant roles in both world wars. During the First World War, she was part of the Grand Fleet and took part in the action on August 19, 1916. Most of her wartime duties involved routine patrols and training in the North Sea. Notably, Queen Elizabeth and her sister ships were pioneers, being the first super dreadnoughts powered by oil instead of coal. In the Second World War, she served in various theaters before being scrapped in 1948. Design and description. The Queen Elizabeth-class ships were crafted to create a swift squadron within the fleet, aimed at challenging the leading ships of enemy battle lines. To achieve this, they needed to pack a powerful offensive punch and be several knots faster than any other battleship. This speed and power combination enabled them to take on and defeat any opponent they faced. Queen Elizabeth was an impressive battleship with some remarkable dimensions and power. She measured 639 feet 9 inches from bow to stern, had a beam of 90 feet 7 inches, and a draft of 33 feet. In terms of displacement, she usually weighed 32,590 long tons, but when fully loaded, this increased to 33,260 long tons. For propulsion, Queen Elizabeth relied on 2 sets of Parsons steam turbines, each driving 2 shafts. These turbines were powered by steam generated from 24 Babcock and Wilcox boilers. This setup provided her with a whopping 75,000 shaft horsepower, allowing her to reach top speeds of up to 25 knots. Queen Elizabeth could cover 5,000 nautical miles at a steady cruising speed of 12 knots, making her both fast and long-lasting on the seas. Her crew in 1920, when she served as a flagship, numbered 1,262 officers and sailors, highlighting the significant manpower required to operate such a formidable vessel. The Queen Elizabeth-class battleships were heavily armed, boasting an impressive array of weaponry designed for both offensive and defensive operations. These ships featured 8 15-inch breech-loading Mk1 guns, arranged in 4 twin-gun turrets. These turrets were strategically placed in superfiring pairs at the front and rear of the ship, designated as A, B, X, and Y from bow to stern. Complementing these were 14 6-inch Mk12 guns. 12 of these guns were installed in casemates along the ship's broadside amidships, while the remaining 2 were situated on the forecastle deck near the aft funnel, protected by sturdy gun shields. In terms of anti-aircraft capabilities, the Queen Elizabeth class was equipped with 2 3-inch quick-firing Mk1 guns, ensuring a robust defense against aerial threats. The ships also featured 4 submerged 21-inch torpedo tubes, with 2 tubes located on each side of the vessel. Fire control systems were a vital part of the Queen Elizabeth's design. The battleship was fitted with 2 fire control directors, each equipped with 15-foot rangefinders. One director was mounted above the conning tower, shielded by an armored hood, while the other was placed in the spotting top on the tripod foremast. Additionally, each main turret was equipped with its own 15-foot rangefinder, allowing for precise targeting. The primary armament could also be controlled from the turret if necessary. The secondary armament's fire control was managed by directors located on either side of the compass platform on the foremast, installed in March 1917. A temporary director was added between November and December 1916 to enhance targeting capabilities. Between 1919 and 1927, the battleship Queen Elizabeth underwent extensive modifications to enhance her capabilities. One of the significant changes was the enlargement of the foremast top. Rangefinders were added to the B and X gun turrets and high-angle rangefinders were installed at the forward wheelhouse and conning tower. The original 3-inch guns were replaced with more powerful 4-inch guns. Further upgrades included the installation of radio direction finding equipment at the aft end of the command platform, with an antenna above the helm station. The bridge superstructure was modified, and the funnels were combined into a single unit. Additionally, the superstructures were expanded to better accommodate signal personnel and equipment, and the yards on the foremast were removed. During a major rebuild from 1937 to 1941, Queen Elizabeth received even more significant updates. Her old bridge was replaced with a modern tower bridge. The original 6-inch guns were swapped out for 24.5-inch guns mounted in 10 double turrets, along with several smaller anti-aircraft guns. Horizontal armor was added, and both the engines and boilers were replaced. The elevation of her main battery was increased to 30 degrees, and deck armor was thickened to 5 inches over the magazines and 2.5 inches over the machinery. The new 4.5-inch guns were protected by 1 to 2 inches of armor. The ship also gained aircraft facilities, including a launching catapult amidships. New fire control equipment was installed, such as the HAX Mk4AA fire control system and the Admiralty Fire Control Table Mk7 for surface fire control of the main armament. This extensive reconstruction was completed in January 1941, after Britain had been at war for over a year. In February 1919, Queen Elizabeth was fitted with flying-off platforms on the roofs of B and X turrets, allowing fighters and reconnaissance aircraft to take off. The platform on X turret was removed during the 1926 to 1927 refit, while the other platform was removed later. Construction and career. Queen Elizabeth, named after Elizabeth I of England, was laid down at Portsmouth Dockyard on October 21, 1912, and launched on October 16, 1913. She was completed in January 1915, during the First World War. While still undergoing tests in the Mediterranean, Queen Elizabeth was sent to the Dardanelles to support the Allied effort to push the Ottoman Empire out of the war. On April 25, during the Gallipoli campaign, she served as the flagship for General Sir Ian Hamilton, commander of the Mediterranean Expeditionary Force. The Dardanelles campaign saw a major effort by the British and French fleets to shell the outer forts of Gallipoli on November 3, 1914. Following this, the Admiralty devised a comprehensive amphibious operation for January 1915, involving a convoy of 8 ships, including the mighty Queen Elizabeth. Although she was set to reach the Dardanelles on February 15, an accident near Gibraltar on February 12 damaged one of her turbines, reducing her speed and delaying her arrival until February 25. When Queen Elizabeth finally arrived, she joined forces with Agamemnon, Irresistible, and Gulwa to launch a fresh assault aimed at destroying the outer forts up to the strait's entrance. The strategy required 4 ships to sail in pairs to the entrance, then turn to bombard Cape Helles and Coombe Cale with their secondary armament from a distance of about 3,300 yards. On February 25, Queen Elizabeth anchored 7 miles southwest of Cape Helles Lighthouse and successfully targeted the 2 modern 9-inch guns at Sed El Bahr. In early March, several bombardments of the inner forts yielded little success. On March 5, Queen Elizabeth bombarded forts on the European side of the strait for 4 hours from 8 miles away but achieved minimal results. The next day, she targeted Schemenlik, unaware that the Ottomans had discreetly positioned the pre-dreadnought Harudin Barbarossa in the strait at Chenok, ready to fire upon her. Mistaking the initial shells for those from a mobile field howitzer, the British soon realized the true threat and repositioned 1 mile away. Once the Ottoman observation post was discovered, Queen Elizabeth, along with Agamemnon and Ocean, fired several salvos. However, the Ottomans quickly relocated, allowing Harudin Barbarossa to resume firing and striking Queen Elizabeth 3 times below the waterline. Fortunately, these hits did not penetrate her belt armor. To avoid further damage, Queen Elizabeth prudently withdrew from her position. Main attack on 18th of March. The decisive moment of the battle occurred on the night of 18th of March, when the Ottoman minelayer Nusrat strategically placed a series of mines across the head of Eren-Koy Bay. This bay, located along the Asiatic coast at the entrance to the strait, was a critical point. The Ottomans had observed that British ships typically turned to starboard as they retreated into the bay. Capitalizing on this pattern, they laid a new line of 20 mines parallel to the shore, each anchored at a height of 49 feet and spaced about 100 yards apart. These mines were visible through the clear water, spotted by reconnaissance aircraft. The British plan for 18th of March aimed to dismantle the defenses of the first 5 minefields, which were to be cleared overnight. The following day, the goal was to overcome the remaining defenses around the Narrows and remove the last 5 minefields. Unbeknownst to the British and French, the Ottomans had recently enhanced their minefields. The battleships were organized into 3 lines, 2 British and 1 French, with support ships on the flanks and 2 ships in reserve. As Queen Elizabeth entered the strait under continuous fire, she reached her designated attack position around 11 a.m. and commenced firing on the fortifications at Çanakkale by 11:25. Initially, the operation seemed to proceed as planned. However, the situation changed dramatically when several ships struck the mines late earlier in the afternoon. By nightfall, it was clear that the attack needed to be called off, and a withdrawal was ordered. Queen Elizabeth continued to participate in further naval operations, suffering heavy losses until early May. In response to the sinking of several battleships, the Admiralty decided to end the continuous support of battleships. Consequently, on 12th of May, Queen Elizabeth left the Dardanelles and made her way home. She subsequently traveled to Gibraltar and then to Scapa Flow, joining the 5th Battle Squadron on May 26, 1916. The ship underwent an overhaul at Rosyth from 22 May to June 4, 1916, which meant she did not participate in the Battle of Jutland. In June, she briefly served as the flagship of the 5th Battle Squadron and underwent another overhaul in July. After her recommissioning in 1917, Queen Elizabeth temporarily served as the flagship for U.S. Admiral Mayo. Interwar Period. The signing of the armistice with the Allies by representatives of the German Empire took place on board the Queen Elizabeth on November 15, 1918. This marked a significant moment in history. On July 26, 1924, Queen Elizabeth participated in the annual fleet review off Spithead. By November 1, 1924, she had joined the Mediterranean Fleet, taking over from the Iron Duke as the flagship. In May 1926, she was replaced by Warspite and decommissioned in Portsmouth for a significant refit. The refit lasted until December 1927. Upon completion, Queen Elizabeth was recommissioned as the flagship of the Mediterranean Fleet on January 2, 1928. In October 1929, she made a notable visit to Istanbul. From November 1929 to May 1930, she underwent another thorough overhaul at Portsmouth. In July 1930, she was dispatched to Alexandria with the battleship Ramillies to support local troops during the uprising led by the WAF Party. Between November 1932 and March 1933, Queen Elizabeth was overhauled once more in Portsmouth. On July 16, 1935, she took part in the fleet review off Spithead, celebrating the 25th anniversary of King George V's reign. During the Abyssinia crisis, Queen Elizabeth was stationed in Alexandria, playing a crucial role. She also participated in the fleet review marking the coronation of King George VI off Spithead on May 19, 1937. Throughout the 1930s, Queen Elizabeth was actively involved in the non-intervention blockade during the Spanish Civil War, showcasing her continued importance and versatility. Her numerous deployments and overhauls during the interwar period highlight her significant role in maintaining naval strength and readiness. Second World War. On August 1, 1937, the battleship Queen Elizabeth was decommissioned to begin extensive conversion work at Portsmouth. However, as the threat of Luftwaffe air raids grew during World War II, it was decided in December 1940 to move her from Portsmouth to Rosyth for safety. This strategic relocation ensured she remained secure from enemy attacks. On January 31, 1941, after completing the necessary conversions, Queen Elizabeth was recommissioned. She was then assigned to the 2nd Battle Squadron of the Home Fleet, ready to play a crucial role in the ongoing war effort. In May 1941, Queen Elizabeth was reassigned to the Mediterranean Fleet. On May 6, she departed Gibraltar for Alexandria, joining Force H to escort convoys to Malta. During this period, she played a crucial role in the defense of Crete and the evacuation of the British Australian-New Zealand Expeditionary Force during Germany's Operation Merkur. On May 26, Queen Elizabeth, alongside Barham, supported an air attack on the German base at Carpathos, launched by aircraft from the carrier Formidable. By May 27, she had become the flagship of the 1st Battle Squadron and the 2nd Fleet, replacing Barham, which had been damaged by bombs during the conflict. The situation took a dramatic turn on December 19, 1941, when Queen Elizabeth and her sister ship Valiant were severely damaged by limpet mines placed by Italian combat swimmers from Decima Flotilla Mas. These swimmers infiltrated the Allied military port of Alexandria using SLC-type manned torpedoes known as Mayali. Despite the significant damage, which increased her draft to 41.8 feet, Queen Elizabeth did not ground on the harbor bottom. Her decks stayed clear, and the Italian crews were captured. To maintain the illusion of full operational status and conceal their weakened position in the Mediterranean, the Royal Navy continued to act as if both ships were fully functional while they were being repaired and refloated. Valiant returned to service after several months, but Queen Elizabeth took over a year and a half to be fully operational again. Following temporary repairs in an Alexandria dry dock in June 1942, Queen Elizabeth made an extensive journey through the Suez Canal, around Africa, and finally to the Navy Yard in Norfolk, Virginia, for comprehensive repairs. From September 1942 to June 1943, she underwent significant restoration work. By July 1943, Queen Elizabeth had rejoined the Home Fleet, ready to continue her service in the war effort. On December 23, 1943, the battleship Queen Elizabeth set sail for Trincomalee, reaching her destination on January 28, 1944. Upon her arrival, Admiral Somerville, Commander-in-Chief of the Eastern Fleet, took command of her operations. On April 19, 1944, during Operation Cockpit, Queen Elizabeth, along with French and Dutch units, supported the aircraft carriers Illustrious and Saratoga in their assault on Sabang. From April 30 to May 1, she participated in Operation D, which involved bombarding Car Nicobar and Port Blair in the Andaman Islands. After these operations, she underwent significant overhaul work in Durban from October to November 1944. In January 1945, Queen Elizabeth was back in action, taking part in the bombardments of Sabang during Operation Outflank. She played a significant role in the recapture of Burma, which lasted until May 1945. During this campaign, Queen Elizabeth supported the Allied landings on Ramree Island on January 21 and Chiduba Island on January 26 as part of Operation Dracula. Her contributions were crucial in these strategic operations, demonstrating her enduring importance and capability in wartime operations. On July 12, 1945, Queen Elizabeth was replaced by HMS Nelson as the flagship, marking the end of her active service in the fleet. She returned home and arrived in Portsmouth on August 7, 1945. Just a few days later, on August 10, she was assigned to reserve duty at Rosyth. From October 1945 to March 1946, Queen Elizabeth served the home fleet as an accommodation ship, providing housing for naval personnel. After fulfilling this role, she was reassigned to the Portsmouth Reserve. She remained there until her decommissioning on May 15, 1948. Following her decommissioning, Queen Elizabeth was sold to Arnott Young in July 1948. She was then scrapped at Troon, marking the end of her illustrious career. Her journey from a powerful battleship to her final days in reserve duty is a testament to the life cycle of naval ships, reflecting both their significance in wartime and their eventual obsolescence. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of HMS Queen Elizabeth. We hope you found it as fascinating as we did. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating tales from naval history. Thanks for watching The Animated General, out.